We are right at the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our webinar. So hello to everyone, and thank you so much for taking time to join us today. My name is Kim Schofield. I'm from Stamus Networks, and I'll be hosting the webinar today and managing questions at the conclusion of the call. Today, our session will be presented by Peter Manev. He is our CSO and one of our co-founders. Phil Owens, our VP of Customer Support, and also Valentin Vivier, our staff engineer. So just a couple of quick housekeeping reminders. Our webinar is being recorded today, and a link to the recording, as well as a copy of the slides and any additional materials, will be emailed out to you early next week. If you have questions during the webinar, we would ask that you wait until the end of the presentation, but anytime during the webinar, you can type them into the Q&A window. There's a link for that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Peter.
Hey, folks. Thank you very much, Kim. You folks hear me all right, I hope? All right. So let's go a little bit over the agenda, what we'll try to do here today. So, of course, we'll talk a little bit about Clear NDR Community to begin with, what it is, and we'll dive into some hands-on demos, primary use cases, what resources, where to find more information, and what options exist for deployment and similar things. So we will... as we do like very much hands-on, at least in this company, we'll go through some installation and configuration, hands-on tips and tricks, some walkthrough for use cases like 2 clicks to evidence and hunting capabilities within the same data, all through the UI. And of course, last but not least, we're going to talk one of the major features in the community edition, which is mainly MCP capabilities and AI integration. So with that being said, what is Clear NDR Community? Actually, it's a turnkey based entirely on Suricata's data, IDS, NSM, or NDR implementation. It's GPL version 3. It has a lot of bundled open source tools with it, but you can do rule sets management, you can do threat intelligence management. It has a built-in hunting user interface. There are extensive number of Suricata data visualizations and dashboards. It has a native AI interface, MCP. And one of the best parts is flexibility in terms of deployments. It could be deployed pretty much on any Linux machine, or we have also ISOs available for download with or without desktop, where we can actually based off Debian, where you can actually just go ahead and install the system. It is proudly created and maintained by a bunch of bright folks here at Stamus Networks, whom I'm very proud to have as colleagues. And the Clear NDR Community basically grew out of Selks. The former project's name was Selks. Now, with that being said, anything and everything that is in and that we will actually demo on, and all the data that is in the Clear NDR Community is actually produced by Suricata, because Suricata has evolved to be something much more than IDS when it formerly started as a groundbreaking multi-threat engine back 17 years ago. It now has all the 4 major types of network monitoring data. Those are the alerts, the metadata, which actually includes protocol and flow transactions. It can do Suricata can do extracted files, and can actually do PCAP as well. So a bunch of goodies in there. Again, built on top of Suricata, and Suricata 8 is the latest stable version. So that's what Clear NDR Community is using, and there's a lot of stuff in there that we can use for defense. So with that being said, I'd like to transfer it to a colleague of ours that is actually very much guilty for creating the Clear NDR Community, the architecture and deployment and all that. And Valentin, would you please have a few words here on this and the next few slides about the architecture? Let's start with that.
Yes, thank you, Peter. So to make everything work in Clear NDR, we have a pretty neat architecture lot of moving parts, lot of components. But the first point, the first entry point is the network interface that is read by Suricata. Suricata listen on the network interface to produce a nav.json file containing alerts seen by Suricata. This file is then read by FluentD, pushing everything to OpenSearch. We are using OpenSearch 2 in Clear NDR because that allows us to have some performance features that are nice, but also some index management, automated rotation to not take the full file system, the full disk after some time. So that's nice. Then you can use OpenSearch dashboards or Xbox to access raw visualization of the data, or you can use Sirius, which will provide you some hunting dashboards that Peter will show you later, and that provide you also some cool stuff like managing your rule sets, where you can modify, update your rule sets and push that to Suricata directly. That will update based on that. We also use Celery and Celerybit to provide cool feature like update of the rule set automatically, like a cron job, but with Celerybit, and that's cool. And we also have a PostgreSQL database that stores a lot of stuff, but mostly the user credentials that Sirius use to protect all of our architecture by asking for credential for accessing everything in our architecture. Even open source dashboard, Diffbox are protected and need the Sirius logins to be accessed. Next slide, please. Thank you. So we won't let you instantiate and configure everything. That will be a lot of work. So we created a tool that is called Stamus ETL, which is a Go binary that don't need any dependency on the host. It just needs the binary and Docker to work. No need to install libraries or shared object or anything. And with this tool, you will be able to start an instance of Clear NDR, manage it, make updates, modify some stuff around, and then stop it if needed. We also provide some cool feature like replaying backups through Suricata or managing multiple instances, and also fine-tuning to your real need and your real hardware where needed. Next slide, please. A basic usage of Stamus ETL will compose of two commands. The third one is a kind of bonus. The first one, composing it, is the command that you will use to create a Clear NDR config. It will create every configuration file needed and tune as you need with that you can tune with parameters. Like here, suricata.interfaces to select what interfaces Suricata will listen. Then you will do a compose up-d that will talk to people that know Docker Compose already. It will create networks, volumes, containers, spin up everything and make everything works. Then when it's done, you can do a read pickup to replay a pickup. And then you can also access localhost, access the interface, access the dashboard, everything. But I will do a demo of that later. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Valentin, for your work on the project, of course. So as I mentioned earlier, there's 3 formats available: containerized package based on the Stamus ETL as a management tool, as Valentin just explained. So basically, you can spin up that as long as you have Docker, you can spin it up in pretty much any Linux distribution. Then we have complete image with or without desktop. And those could be plugged in, installed on bare metal. They're based off Debian stable latest, and or any can also be plugged into any virtual infrastructure and similar. So the minimum requirements for those are listed. They're on the right hand side. You see them. I actually use the containerized package a lot. Probably, I wouldn't lie if I say daily the past 3 weeks for sure, but at least a few times a week, any given week. And I'll explain to you why during the demo later on that we will be doing the different demos. So what's new on a high level here? So first and foremost, Suricata 8. So the latest version of the latest Suricata stable version. Suricata 8 has a massive amount of new features in it enabled, new features by default enabled, and many new additions and differences from the previous Suricata 7 version. So new protocols, new data fields to do threat hunting, visualization, so on. New possibilities for deployment, and many, many more. We're building on top of OpenSearch as well. So OpenSearch 2 improves scalability, reliability. There is a bunch of new dashboards and visualizations for OpenSearch, like 400 visualizations and 58 new dashboards. These are just different perspective of views and threat hunting possibilities based off the Suricata 8 data that Suricata 8 is producing. We also have a notification system which keeps actually the user informed of new releases, best practices, or posts as well. I wouldn't say one of the actually the most unexpected feature that you'll be able to see here, but like actually one of the biggest in terms of that the team wanted to actually add in is the multi-context protocol added in for integration with third-party generative and agentic AI, and actually. This is thanks to hard work for a bunch of people on the team. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first actually such possible installation with Suricata data and the MCP protocol that is open source, of course. So always we like to be at least on the forefront of innovation when it comes to Suricata as well. So it's one of many other features, but this was like one of the biggest differentiator for Community 1.0 as compared to its predecessor, Selks. And with that, there is also possibility for external integrations, like linking to outside systems. There is better possibility for a native capability to do streamlined threat intelligence, advanced data management, because Suricata does produce a lot of network awareness data and similar. So there's a lot of goodies, and those are the high level things that we wanted to put in there. We will have specific demos on some of these features just to get your curiosity going. But I'm personally looking forward to the MCP one. In terms of AI, no pressure, Phil. We work with you. With you and other team members a lot on that, so looking forward to it. And of course, Valentin. So, what are some of the use cases? Well, this can be a production-grade solution for small, medium-sized organizations. It could be used for teaching, for training. I use it a lot for kind of investigation of different pickup or traces and similar. Like, for example, if I want to review different samples of what they're doing in different traces and compare them, reading pickup analysis, I use that feature a lot. It's not, because it's an all-in-one, it's not intended for really a massive large enterprise scale deployments, but it's actually a perfect fit for a bunch of deployments. And we know, as based off from Selks, that is also quite used. It basically, as Valentin mentioned, live traffic analysis, north, south, east, west. We can replay traffic, or you can actually read pcaps and all that. But ready to go on any Linux distribution via the containerized install, powered by the Stamus CTL widget tool, or actually via the ISOs. And with that, I think we're going to have some hands-on demos in here. And Valentin, kudos, because you're one of the biggest participators there in making a community edition 1.0 actually happen. I know we've been working very closely with you and other colleagues on that. So if you don't mind, please take us away for the first part of the demo, and then we'll continue on forward. If you got some tips and tricks on how to use it and the CTL. I'll stop sharing here and transfer over to you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
See your screen.
Nice, perfect. Okay, so firstly, I want to introduce this URL, this command that will let you download and install StamusCTL on your machine. I won't do it right now because I already have it installed. But with that and Docker, you're good to go and ready to use StamusCTL and Clear NDR. When you have StamusCTL installed, you will be able to do a StamusCTL compose init. Here I'm using this parameter, OpenSearch memory, to set the RAM that the memory that OpenSearch can use to 8 gig. By default, we use 2, which can be a bit small for some installation. When I'm doing the init, StamusCTL will ask me for my network interface that I want to listen through Suricata. So I will select here my dummy0 interface. And when that's done, I have a config folder here that contain every configuration file and everything to make that works. Then I can do StamusCTL compose up-d and it will start everything. You can see that it's creating networks, it's creating volume and containers. It will take on my host around 1 minute, but I have a good CPU, good RAM, so it's pretty fast. It can be a bit slower sometimes. We are using Docker Compose, so you will see the same interface as Docker Compose, and that's why you need Docker installed on the machine. It's because we are using the Docker daemon. Also, here I'm not using sudo when doing StamusCTL. You will need to use sudo if your user is not in the Docker group or you didn't do the setup to be able to use Docker from your user. So either use sudo, you use your root user, or set up your user to be in the Docker group, and it will be fine. So it should be good soon. Sirius is always a bit slow to start because it's running a lot of Postgre migration and setting up the volume. Okay, it's done. A little over a minute. When that's done, you can do a lot of stuff. You can still use the Docker command as we are using Docker. So Docker stats here will show me my containers and the resource they use. And we can see OpenSearch is using a bit over 8 gig as I've asked. I can also use some commands from StamusCTL, like StamusCTL compose log Sirius to access the log of Sirius. I could also restart it with restart. Won't do that because it's a bit slow. I can also use some command like config get to get every parameter that my Clear NDR instance uses. And we can see stuff like Suricata Omnet, which is currently configured as that. And if I want to change it, I can do a StamusCTL config set Suricata Omnet. Here I'm using that. You could set up some stuff for IPv6, for example. And I can see that in the setup file that we give to Suricata, it is changed here directly. So Suricata is using this new configuration after a restart, obviously. We can also, now that it's running, run StamusCTL compose read pcap and give it a file. And it will be given to a Suricata instance running with the same rule set as the Suricata that is running the live read on the interface. So if we change our rule set through Sirius, it will be taken into account for the read pickup. I will read just quickly another file to demo something that nice in the interface. So here I need to accept the certificate because we are using self-signed certificate, but we are using HTTPS. I can log in with the Clear NDR username and password. And now I can see my pickup here with all the data. Using the auto range, it shows that read pickup respected the date inside the pickup. It is not like a TCP replay where I would have the date and the hour right now. Here I have the date and hour in the pickup. I can, in this interface, also filter with this. The probe here is the name of the file of the pickup I've read, so I can change based on that to see a different pickup if I read multiple ones. also, quick mention, because I find it pretty cool, you can find here the settings for the index management in OpenSearch, where after 7 days, the warm index stops, so it's take less storage, and after 50 days, by default, we delete an index, meaning that we keep 2 weeks of data. You can also change that with the stamusctl config set if needed. We have a command, because we talked a bit about multiple instances, stamusctl config list, where you can list all the installation you have, where they are, what type of project they are. Currently, we have Clear NDR and the test setup, the version they use, and if they are up or not. You could run commands from anywhere by doing stamusctl compose, -c, the path, and here if I do an upd, it will start upping it. I will stop it before it runs, but you could do that. When you have done what you wanted to do, replaying pcap and analyzing them, you can also do a stamusctl config clear. Here I'm using sudo because some containers write on my file system as sudo errors, so I need to run that as sudo. So I will run that, and it will start cleaning everything that I did. First deleting the containers, then volumes, networks, and then the config folder that we've seen. You could run an rm-rf command to delete the folder by yourself if you want, it's the same. But this command makes sure that everything was deleted correctly. So it will take also a bit of time. Okay, here it is. I don't have the config folder, everything was deleted. If I run docker ps, nothing, docker stats, nothing. And yeah, that's all for my quick demo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, let me go ahead and share my my screen. And by the way, getting Clear NDR Community Edition up and running is pretty much basically 3 commands. Like, let's dive in a bit further and see what else can we do here. So hopefully, folks, you see my screen. I think you are. So here, we're past the installation setup that were some tips and tricks were demoed by Valentin. I'm going to go ahead and log in, Clear NDR. And actually here is one of the, where we end up landing is the hunting and rule set management interface. But this is the hunting interface here, the dashboards, the events, and the opposite visualizations and dashboard. Those are the places that I really like to dwell and spend a lot of time in when I get the time. One of the use cases that Valentin was hinting on previously, and that I like using a lot, is I have, for example, when I look at different malware, or if I have pickup traces, I'd like to have a look and see what the different malwares do, either in similarities or just when I'm reviewing a case, I want to jump from one to the other. And I have a few. These are all public pickups in here. The case that I'm going to actually want to have a look at is this one, and this one is actually available from AnyRun, which is you can actually get the pickup once you sign in. It's free signing. You can download a pickup for different use cases. This one is based on XWormDome, and it's been actually spread via a steganography campaign. And some of the other pickups that I have in my hunting interface here as well, they're based on malware traffic analysis, which is the site here. These are also public pickups. So big kudos for actually having these pickups. We'll be able to actually showcase a glimpse of what malware does, and actually to get us to demo number 2, which is like 2 clicks to evidence. So when I'm reviewing a specific case, I have a few options. Sometimes when you're reviewing a specific case, in order to get an idea that you can then implement and automate and do the hunt only once. And you have the luxury of reviewing a case like that because it's very small noise. So you have to be really careful what kind of indicators or what kind of artifacts you'll pick up from there in order to automate your detection, or for the automated detection on. Because Some detection mechanisms or methods have true or false positives and similar things. Some are noisy, some in depending on the environment. In some environments they're relevant, in others they're not. So there's a lot of dependencies, but here in the interface I have, and thanks to also Suricata's data and Stamus engineering here, I have very powerful tools at my disposal. First of all, I have some predefined hunting filter sets, about 45 of them that can give me some ideas that can set me off on structured, unstructured hunt and similar. Then, of course, when I'm looking at a PCAP, you can just simply review what's happening here, and those are on the alert part. And then you can also jump on the network security monitoring data or non-alert data, let's say, and review that as well. So it reviews both ends. But what happens here in this case is after I reviewed it, yes, of course, there's some obvious and non-malicious SSL communication. But what I got stuck in with is like, for example, sometimes you have some indicators that usually normal, let's say regular corporate deployments could be very noisy. However, knowing, having an IOC or having some sort of a domain or name, things like that, that's easy. Easy in terms of it's no for detection. But in this case, I actually zoomed in. I wanted to zoom in on PowerShell file requests. Why? Because it's usually, as I mentioned in organizations, it's very noisy. And when I actually looked through the interface, I wanted to actually have a look at the actual events. And again, with just a couple of clicks, I'm actually landing to a place that is quite telling. So first of all, I have the alert itself with all of its accompanying data. In this case, it's HTTP status code 200. I also have any related file transaction information that is here. So I know there is a certain file that's being transferred. I have the SHA here. I have the flow information, and I know things have happened because we have a few hundred kilobytes. A couple of megabytes and things like that being transferred. I know it's HTTP. I have the HTTP data in there. I have the JSON view, which actually holds this alerts raw JSON format. And inside, I have a bunch of other useful information. In a couple other things at the end, we have a PCAP file. This is deduplicated, actually, extraction of that session. So if I just click download, I can download it. And this is the PCAP, actually, that was responsible for triggering this alert and many others. With a click, I have it. And this is deduplicated conditional PCAP logging. That feature was actually donated by Eric LeBlanc, who's our CTO. To the Suricata code, and we actually we're super happy if others keep up the good work and donate more features and code and support Suricata, of course. But again, and then you have the PCAP, so the ultimate kind of evidence of that this thing happened, and then you have the detection method here. So basically, in this panel here, I have everything that I need to determine if something is true or false positive. Everything from PCAP, from the detection method, to all the accompanying data for that specific flow. And here's the differentiator. This is open source. There are actually plenty of commercial vendors that will happen to charge it for you, but all this is actually possible, again, in here because of the data that Suricata produces and because of this hunting. There's also hunting GUI that I have. One more thing that I got stuck with while I was reviewing is that, obviously this was actually downloaded via the command line, but it was a funny thing that malware will be using something like that, and I was actually curious to see what this is. And actually, I wanted to have a look on GitHub. And it's actually the PowerShell obfuscator, and as you can see, it goes through a bunch of obfuscation layers and similar things, but it was available as is many other tools on GitHub. Now, it doesn't mean the intent is malicious, but a bunch of normal and useful tools are also used by malicious actors. But that just called my attention that it was here. And obviously, this is up to no good because you don't really have things like that, decoding and encoding stuff, especially in clear text, flying around in the organization with PowerShell. And this is even more so useful to know that as a PowerShell user agent, if in case there is no, let's say, PowerShell user agent, you'll be able to quickly go to places like give me some more external info on that domain, or TLS SNI certificate, or similar things via the external links configuration here. So anyway, again, this is a small case where actually I'm reviewing sometimes. This is one of my use cases when I'm reviewing data from malware and just figuring out how it behaves and what's useful, what's not useful. It's also good to see the other side of it, of course, because you have different malwares kind of or different certificates, actually non-certificates, IOCs in this kind of breach. So it's interesting to see how they all come together. And again, if you're looking for the evidence, as I said, a couple of clicks get you right in there with all the protocol data, with the PCAP, with the detection logic behind it. It's all in there, so I can quickly determine what's true, what's not true, and what needs my attention. So from here on, I need to build my detection logic and automate it, because, as I said, reviewing a case by case like that only goes so far. This is the first step. Then you need to actually kind of figure out the pain points and automate it. And in this case, I'll actually be pretty interesting in that very generic signature. But where it's coming and where is it going, that will be my next question for automating the detection. And then also a kind of the payload, or the size of the payload that is in there. That will be also my second point. But again, a very generic highlighting signature that I'll personally further explore on. Now, as you've noticed here, we have a few other apps. Archimate Viewer, OpenSearch, EveBox, and CyberChef. These are all like built-in tools. EveBox is done by Jason Ish, who is actually a colleague from the Suricata team. Archimate Viewer, we use also an awesome open source tool. OpenSearch is, of course, all the data is in there, and CyberChef needs no introduction, because it's actually pretty famous and allows manipulation of different types of string coding, encoding, and similar things. Now, as I mentioned, there is a huge number of possibilities with Suricata's data when it comes to, one, kind of audit and visibility on network, and two, actually threat detection or even hunting, as you will, if you wish, based on NSM data. So let's switch to that. And as I mentioned, in OpenSearch, we have about 50 plus 58 dashboards. They're all listed in here. And there's 3 pages of those. There's different dashboards for different purposes. Some are based on flow data, some are just based on protocol data and similar. And the list goes on. This also includes the new protocols from Suricata, the new additions in there, like WebSocket, LDAP, MDNS, and all those things. This is massive update from an open source tool for the defenders out there, for the network security monitoring folks. An example on NSM data, as DNS is kind of one of the most used way in and out for a lot of malware actors, and the backbone of kind of the internet, pretty much. I'm looking here at DNS logs only, combined with some flow data. So there are no alerts here. This is just standard DNS data produced by Suricata 8. And in this case, I've read, via the Stamus CTL read command, a bunch of kind of malware and benign traffic mixed together. And to the point where I don't really even know what malware is there and things like that. But I like that because it gives me a perspective, an edge. So, you assume a breach type scenario here, and there's something bad, so you go out to find it. Of course, you cannot find anything and everything on DNS only, but it's just one example out of many. So a ton of DNS data here, about 400, 500,000 almost logs. So it's broken down by different visualizations. So you have DNS over time, by TTL, source destination. Then we move on to actually the different resource codes, resource records, types, queries or answers, resource data and similar, and the actual events themselves. And some of those events look like that. So if I switch to JSON, this is basically a standard kind of JSON event for Suricata. So you have a bunch of actually logs in here. Some are totally normal, some are malicious, lots of noise. So okay, let's dig in. And as I said, let's dig in. A couple of visualizations that I just added that were so easy to do in just 4 or 5 clicks with Suricata data, the following actually. First, I did a very plain and simple DNS answers by count. And by answers, I mean, so you see this here, DNS answers are our name. So this is actually a field in a Suricata event type JSON that could be used for a visualization. The other visualization here is basically a simple count by DNS authorities resource record name, and simple counts like that. So what do they look like? Well, let's go to edit, and I will actually go and edit the visualization, just show what it is. It's very simple. So basically we have the count is by default, and here I'm just telling it use an aggregation terms on this field from the DNS events of Suricata. So DNS answers are an name keyword. Order them max, the top 50 or the bottom 50, order them descending. That's it, and that's all. And as you may see, the first thing that actually in this case comes out is this large number here. By count, and so we have the answers by count. So I can simply just click on it, and you can see like this is obviously a DNS tunnel going on, and a huge amount in there. So just by getting the answers, because we're interested in the answers, okay, I have a query and you receive an answer. So how many answers? Sort them by count. Just I want to see the DNS answers are our name field. Sort them by count. Quite revealing with a click. Then I'm going to go and actually disable that or remove that, and I'm going to show you the other actually kind of interesting part of the visualization, that is in this case DNS authorities. So let's go and have a look at that. What does this do? Basically another simple one. Plain and simple often goes a long way as long as you have the right data in there. So basically count, we're sorting by count, and in every event type DNS, that's the DNS events that Suricata produces, we have the RR name, the authorities RR name. So here I'm just telling it order descending size 100, and of course it depends on your setup, on your organization, and how it deployed. Some things coming up here will obviously be okay, you're not interested in that, or that's just noise and similar things. But as I was reviewing too, just here on actually page second, I started to find some interesting domains, if you will, basically with a lot of counts on them. So let's see how does this look on the general dashboard, and what does this give us. So I'm going to go again in here. I'm going to go in looking at at these folks, and as I said, as I was browsing through, I was just basically having a look, and then I see something like Jingle Heart. Okay, not because of the name, but because I don't expect to see that. I just basically am clicking on it, and I see here that the tunnel is also quite obvious. So you can see how they all split up. You have the same source, similar destination. Obviously, here you can split it up by our name, and obviously this is kind of you don't need more. This is kind of quite a giveaway about the tunnel. Now, however, this is as good as it is, and as we have the logs, what I really wanted to do is actually get to the actual pickups and the data. I can quickly click on the link here, FPC, and this should bring me to Archimate Viewer, pardon me, where actually I have the data, I have it loaded, and I actually have the pickup view in here, and I can actually get the pickup as well. NX domain, and obviously a huge tunnel going on there. So again, a few clicks had an idea about what if I look at the answers, what if I look at the authorities and similar things. I had an idea about that. Just let's say, okay, let me see what the visualizations would look like. Can we make it like that? Really simple to create it with a few clicks, and some of the top talkers that are coming right on top of that are again quite revealing. So you have DNS answers by count and DNS authorities also by count, which was just playing around with the data and jumping in and doing like call hunts, kind of thread hunting. But this is the type of data that Suricata has. This is the type of possibilities that you have with these visualizations, with Clear NDR Community, with the GUI in there. And it's all open source. There's a lot of people, a lot of folks that are kind of spending a lot of time to actually open source it, to make sure it's actually available to a lot of organizations, including the ones that cannot afford commercial ones. But with the data and with the possibilities that you have here, this could rival a lot of commercial solutions out there, especially with all the four major types of data available in and by Suricata. That is actually quite a huge of a potential. Now, I'm gonna switch it over to Phil, because I think I can go on for a few more hours here before I start going off script, but I don't want to do that to Phil, because he has something I think even more interesting to show here. This is the model context protocol with AI and all that stuff. So I'm going to go and stop sharing. I'm going to go ahead, Phil, transfer it to you if you don't mind.
Thank you very much, Peter. Let me find my screen to share, and here we go. Just let me know that you can see my screen. Is that okay?
I see a screen.
Excellent, excellent. So just to give you an idea what you're looking at here, this is a open source client for AI, for external AI models. It will also connect to an Olama internal server if that's the way you'd like to go. We've chosen this one. You can actually use pretty much any AI agent that will work with MCP, or the Model Context Protocol. And so, for instance, we've also looked into this one here called it's called Sire, I think is how it's pronounced. It's also open source and free to use. So, and this can also connect to third-party LLMs like Google, like the Agent Zero, Google, Gemini, Google, which is Gemini, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude, and I can actually show you that here. So in the settings, what you need to do in order to set up the Model Context Protocol server, which is what is running on the Clear NDR Community Edition server, that's what it would be called. In this case, what I've done is I've created a token for Google, and you can see that here. Obviously, you can't see my token, but you can see that I've put one in. But all of the different ideas that it has, capabilities that it has to communicate. So if you're using a Hugging Face server to a local LLM, you could do that as well. So lots of different things that you can do within Agent Zero. This is also all running within Docker, so very, very easy to set up. Once I have picked the actual AI model that I want to use, or the LLM that I want to use, I can go into the agent settings here and let it know I want Google, and I'm using Gemini 2.5 Pro. I just want you guys to see that that's what I'm going to be using as the LLM to communicate with the data that's located within Clear NDR. So with that said, the last piece of configuration that you have to do within your client is configure the MCP access. So in this case, I can open up the MCP access. Ooh, don't look at my token. I should hide that. But you can see. I will be changing it right after this call. But you can see. You put in the URL. What type of streamable? All of this configuration is in our documentation, so no problem there. You set that up, and it knows to point at this particular Clear NDR CE instance. With that said, it also comes back and says that there's 5 tools available. Pardon this, Agent Zero doesn't do well with markup language, so it's kind of a little hard to read here. But the alert list capabilities, so it can go into the alert list and show information, and it can do mapping information for different. It might need to do this to do some Lucerne queries or things like that. So that mapping list exists. You can actually ask and see it. It can go into the rules themselves and pull out any information, and it will utilize talkers. And what this does is it gets metadata out of the system. That's even more so than just alerts, for instance. And then finally, there's a version. So once you've set up your MCP, and then you've set up your external service, whatever that's going to be, or a local. You could maybe use LM Studio, for instance, and point that directly, or have that just spin up a local LLM. And so you set up your local and you set up your agents. We will save that data. I've already done that. And you can see here I'm at a new chat. And just to test to see what I'm talking about, I can ask it, can you give me the version, 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 of Clear NDR that I am running? And when I hit that, this is something that Agent Zero does. It will scan through its memories. It will also come back and generate. And we can see, if I open this up a little bit, we can actually see that it's calling out to the Clear NDR version tool that was listed, and comes back and tells me, hey, I'm running Clear NDR version 1.0 community. So we know now that we have connectivity to that MCP. So that is how we can test that. And then, so just so that you know, I can ask things like, how cool is Peter Manev, right? And for whatever reason, I have a tendency to hold the shift down too long. But we'll see how, just so that you can see that I'm not just communicating directly with Clear NDR. So we can ask that question. It will come back with an answer from Google Gemini, so that we can see what's going on. So the search engine means it's going into Google Gemini's search engine tool, and it will generate a response here for us. Well, cool can be subjective. It's not very nice. I mean, I've done this with ChatGPT, and it was actually a little more fun, but you can see it's pulled down information about our presenter there, Peter Manev, and all of the different things that it's found on the internet about him. So really cool stuff. All right, so now that we've proven that we have connectivity to Clear NDR, and we've proven that we're using, Gemini, and it's actually pulling data from that, we can ask it questions like, do we have any communication to, say, external DNS? Because I would prefer that not to be the case in my organization. And once I've done that, I will let it run through its paces here, and we can we'll actually see. I'll open up the generating. We can see exactly what it's typing, what it's generating from that. So the user's asking, it's fetching information from the Clear NDR mapping info, which means it's going to be using that to make its next step, right? to look into talkers and identifying top DNS communicators at Proto DNS. Look familiar to those of you with Suricata, right? So it's making all of those calls. You can see here that it will do multiple calls if it needs to in order to get the answer, which is really kind of cool to just watch this happen. And here we got, based on the network data, there was no evidence of external DNS servers for some reason. As we know, I think there might be some in there. So I'm actually kind of at a loss to say why that didn't show anything.
Last 24 hours. It should be last 48 hours.
Last 24 hours. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. The playback timing was what it was. It defaults, by the way. This is great that it did this. Thanks, Peter. It was great that it did this because the default when you're talking to it is the last 24 hours. So I could say, can you do that again for the last, and I don't type well, but AI will fix it for me, for the last 48 hours. I'm not even going to try to fix it. I'm just going to put it in there. AI will fix that for me and go about doing its thing, and hopefully we get the response I'm expecting. Sorry about that, Peter. I probably should have set the 48 hours for it.
And no problem. It's still said damn cool though.
It does.
I don't know where that question came out of, but that was not according to script, right?
So here we can see it's going back to Clear NDR talkers, and it's going to generate the information. And you see it fixed all of my typos as well, that what it's looking for. So
that's kind of pretty useful though to fix the typo. But on one side, and on the other side though, is like there's nothing that makes you fix the things. Oh wow, we got some talkers here. Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of them to OpenDNS and some others that are going out to some interesting external DNSs that are, not even Google or anything. So that's very interesting to me.
So you didn't have anything in the last 24 hours, but in the last 48 hours there was a kind of an explosion in there, so to speak.
Yeah, and that was kind of the PCAP playback because of the demo place that we're working on, right? But maybe I want to know something a little bit more like, hey, do you see any info stealers, right, on the network over 48 hours, right? And in this case, it will go into the alerts section and run through all of the alerts over the last 48 hours and see what it's found and pull back any data that might be considered info stealers. So as you can see, everything here is open source. The MCP is added as open source to the Clear NDR CE. Just makes it a really nice way to do your threat hunting or get started with your threat hunting. You can ask it some questions, or with Agent Zero, you can create agents that will run these queries over periods of time and send you information, give you information. And with that, you can actually start into the hunting that you saw with Peter and the things that he was doing. So just want to point that out. And also make sure that we are getting really close to the time. I know this is fun, and I could sit here and put prompts in here all day, just like Peter can do the hunting all day. But we got a couple of extra slides that I just want to take a look at really quickly, and then I also want to leave at least a little bit of time that we can talk about some of the questions that have come in. So I'm going to stop sharing here, and Peter, if you can share the slide deck, that would be awesome.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And by the way, info stealers like that is not exactly something you want to see on your network, but it was pretty cool showing all the public DNS, the external DNSs, and then it's very, very cool. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and so real quickly, a couple of slides here that I want to run through. Stamus Networks, right, was founded with some seed investments back in 2020. We have lots of institutional investors that you can see there. We are headquartered in the US and Paris, France. And we did 2 of these webinars, one in French and earlier today. we have clients across the gambit, right? Enterprises, government institutions, central banks. You can see that list. So from Stamus Networks, 7+ years we participated in the world's largest cyber exercises at NATO with the CCD, COE, and lock shields and cross swords. And we do lots of different open source things, including what you're looking at today. And if you go to the next slide, Peter, I think we have a question, I think, on the Q&A about what we do if you need to scale and get bigger and do things. And that's where the Clear NDR Enterprise Edition comes into play. And on here, you can see some of the differences, the checkboxes of what we have from a Clear NDR community versus Clear NDR Enterprise. And I'm not going to go through all of those. We are at time, so I don't want to give that a whole lot there. We will send out, I believe, this. We will have access. You'll have access to the video for this, I believe, because we are recording.
Yep.
And finally, with the last slide, I want to mention the. Go to the next slide, Peter. With my last slide, yeah, that open source things that we have. You're looking at Clear NDR Community. We have a Splunk app, the Suricata language server to help build Suricata signatures within, say, Microsoft Code or whatever IDE or text editor that you might be using. Gopher PCAP manipulation. We have some Jupyter playbooks out for Suricata. Lots of different things that we're doing, as well as we've written the book, The Security Analyst Guide to Suricata, and that's written by our founders, Eric LeBlanc and Peter Manev. I only bring it up because, well, my name is actually in there too, right at the end. So I just wanted to say that. All right, and then I'm going to turn it back over to Peter.
Yeah, man, thanks, much appreciated. I do have a few questions for you about AI, but let's go through some of the last touches. And by the way, Stamus, we have over 30+ repositories on GitHub, so you're more than welcome to head on to GitHub and have a look. There's some additional resources in here and links, URLs. Again, this webinar is recorded, so you'll have access to that. We have a community Discord server. There's a link where you can get more information about the Clear NDR community, the ISOs, the enterprise. The dashboards and visualizations are standalone for open search as well. If you have your own installation, you can just plug them in. Sirius and some other. Last but not least, we will be at SuriCon 2025. This year, SuriCon has been going on for a few years, 10, and it's the place to be where you want to meet cool people working with Suricata technology, developers, hunters, end users, entrepreneurs. If you want to make a partnership, it's a great place to actually be in, meet the community. We will be there. There is a great deal on 2-day trainings, by the way, that includes a conference ticket and similar. I will be actually leading the threat hunting training. We have colleagues from the Suricata team that will help Eric at the advanced deployment training, and there will be rule writing as well. So there's a bunch of rule writing training with Suricata. There's a bunch of goodie stuff going on in there. Please make sure, if you're in the area, this year is in Montreal. If you're in the area, please stop by and say hi. There's a lot of there's other vendors. There is other ideas. Talks are great. The trainings are awesome, especially for the folks that want to implement Suricata 8 more on the enterprise level. Highly recommend it. But if you're looking for face-to-face, we'll be there. So I'm looking forward to see you folks there if you're in the area. Another word, these are public pickups that I've used in my demo, and also Phil. Just kudos and thank you, because this is actually public free pickup data that anybody can actually take them and reproduce some of the demos that we did. And if you're looking for more information on where to find more on free public pickups of actual malware, there's a webinar that I did about that with some colleagues of mine from the Suricata team on YouTube. With that, big thank you, folks, for actually tuning in and listening in. Looking forward to feedback. Please try out the community edition. I'm going to move back here to the additional resources. Big thank you to the team here at Stamus that actually been with us working nights and weekends to actually make an open source edition out of their own will, of course. So that's actually the coolest part, and it's amazing to work with folks like that, and also amazing to work with colleagues at the Suricata team and OISF. Truly thankful and humbled to be part of that journey. With that being said, I'm not really sure, Kim, if we got time for Q&A and things like that, but Phil, I got a couple of questions for you because you're like the AI guy, okay? So here, if I may, in your experience, because you've done that a lot, and I know we've actually been having a lot of kind of workshops together and similar with Eric as well. What is the impact, in your view, in your experience, of changing the LLM model on the same data?
I think it's really kind of telling, actually, and interesting, right? Some models actually have a sense of humor. So when I would have asked the question of how cool is Peter Manev, it would have came back and said, as cool as sunglasses at night, or something like that, right? If I use ChatGPT, for instance, instead of Gemini. But with the data itself, what I've seen is some of the outputs that come back. Gemini does a very good job at calling our tool multiple times until it gets to an answer. So, for instance, it will, if you ask it about a domain or an IOC, and it sees traffic to that domain or IOC, but it didn't generate an alert, or for some reason, it will give you all of that information. And ChatGPT is great at that. But if there is an alert in that data, Gemini will actually go the next step and say, hey, you probably want the alert information as well, or more than just has it happened. So definitely seeing differences with regards to how things are spelled out. I noticed that with Gemini, I get a lot more tables with my response, which makes it a little easier to read. And with some of the other models, I just get paragraphs or bullet points. So experiment with the models as you're using MCP, because you will see some different responses or different presentation of the responses that may suit you better. So,
all right, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else?
You guys ready for a couple of questions? I know we're a few minutes over. If folks want to hang out for a little bit, that's fine. These will be part of the recording as well, but I think some of these we might be able to get through quickly. So let's take a few minutes and answer what we have here. So the first question I have is there a way to enable security alerts by email in the community edition?
Oh, I can take that. I don't.
Yeah, Peter, I figured you were going to take that as it's kind of a hunting and alert thing.
Yeah, sure. In the enterprise version we have, in the community version, I don't think we do, but you can actually get that via Open Search. I think you can set up notifications through there. So yes, I think there is a way. Short answer.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. How do you deal with encrypted traffic? Do you compute JA4 or something similar?
Yes. So there is, again, we're based off Suricata data. There's hundreds of fields that Suricata actually analyzes and buffers that uses for analyzing encrypted traffic, TLS, SSH, things like that. There's a lot of things, J3, SJ4, TLS, SNI certificates. You can also get engaged with flows, automatic protocol recognition of encrypted session and similar things. Not only that, there is also SSH hash and similar, which works in a similar way to J3, J4s. But there is plenty of things that you can do analyzing encrypted traffic. Now, given it's encrypted, you cannot see the data inside, but there is hundreds of fields that you can actually zoom analysis on. And including on top of what's available in the flow information itself, size, packets, bytes, to server, to client, source, destination, and similar things. So a little bit of a longer answer to the short one. Yes, there is JF4.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next question is, what is the difference between stock Docker tools like Docker Compose and Clear NDR binary?
I think that's a Valentine question.
Yeah, I guess so. The main difference is that we wrap around Docker to provide you an easier experience to start, run, update, and stop the Clear NDR stack, where you can use parameters to tune some configuration file. You don't have to rewrite and dig in the configuration file. Stamus propose that to you. That's the big part, I think.
All right, great. Thank you. So this is a question about deployment. Is the preferred method Docker?
I can maybe answer that
Preferred
also.
deployment method, yeah.
Yeah, we prefer Docker. Even in the ISO, if you take the ISO on a VM, it will be based on Docker because Docker let us use Docker Compose, and it's really easy for us and you to manage it and play around Docker API and stuff like that. So yes.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to do one more question just because of time. And there's some others. Anybody who's still on, if you have other questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. So the last question is there documentation about how to set up the AI companion?
So
yes, there is.
Valentin's been very involved in the documentation, but yes, it will be as part of the documentation how to set up the AI piece. Mostly around, I think, I don't know if we have examples in there on any agents or any clients at the moment, but we definitely, it will be in the documentation on how to set it up. And if you look at this video and you run agent 0, everything that I showed you would be enough to pretty much get it set up for you. So.
Excellent. All right, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. Just as a reminder, there will be a link sent out to the entire presentation along with a copy of the slides. So keep an eye out for that early next week. And thank you everyone for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Phil, Valentine, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.